diving properly into anatomy, today we are going to be talking about our first system, the integumentary system. The integumentary system is all about the skin. And the skin is the largest organ in the body, and it is a very underestimated organ which affects our overall well-being. So we have to be aware of the anatomy or the structure of the skin to be able to accurately assess patients. So, on a side note, dermatology is the medical specialty that deals with diagnosing and treating skin disorder. So, going to the anatomy of the skin is divided or consists of two principal parts: the outer thinner portion, which is called the epidermis, and the inner, beneath the epidermis, we have the dermis. So the epidermis is what we can see, while under the epidermis we have the dermis. Also under the dermis we also have another layer we call the hypodermis, which is made up of adipose tissues. It stores fat and it anchors the skin to tissues and organs. So the structure of the skin, we have this the structure of the skin. We have the epidermis on top, then we have the dermis, which is, as you can see, the largest part. Then the hypodermis anchors the skin, made up of fat. So these are structures of the skin. You see there in the skin we have all the nerves and everything are mostly in the dermis. This epidermis is just a cells, but all these nerves, the blood vessels, everything, even our hair follicles are all in the dermis from this structure. But let's go and talk about them individually. We're talking about the epidermis first. The epidermis is composed of stratified squamous epithelia, and it contains four principal types of cells. The first one we have is the keratinocytes. About 90% of epidermal cells are keratinocytes. Keratinocytes are building blocks of keratin. So they produce keratin, and it's a cell that constantly dies. We lose millions of these keratinocytes every day. That's we completely replace all the keratinocytes in our body every 4 to 6 weeks. So all the skin at the surface, we replace them. They die as they continue to grow up because, as I said in the structure, the blood vessels are in the dermis. So the skin at the surface, they are not receiving any blood vessel or anything. So eventually they will die, go away, and new one will replace them. But the second cells we have in the epidermis is the melanocytes. Melanocytes. These produce the pigment melanin. Melanin has these melanocytes have a spider shape, and they produce melanin. Melanin gives the skin its color. So melanin is responsible for giving skin their color. While the third cell we have is the ligands. These are immune cells. They are star shaped, and they are immune cells in our skin. So they prevent, because the skin is closer to the surface, they prevent, is the easiest place for diseases and anything to enter and penetrate our body. So we have to have immune cells that fight anything from entering our body. The fourth cells we have is the Merkel cells. These cells are, they combine with nerve ending to create sensory receptor for touch. So when we feel touch, is because of these cells, the Merkel cells. So apart from the cells in the epidermis, we also have layers in the epidermis. So you have to get it clear. The epidermis, we are looking at the epidermis, which is the outer layer. We have cells. We have four types of cell, and we also have layers. We have 4 or 5 layers of epidermis. For example, normally on the skin we have 4 layers of epidermis, but on places like our palms or soles of our feet, you'll notice that those places are a little bit thicker. So we have 5 layers of epidermis in those places, and that is, we need those because those are where, like, we walk on the soles of our feet, we use our hand to grab things. We need those extra friction, where exposure to friction is greatest. So those are the places where we have 5 layers, while other places we have 4. These layers are the stratum corneum. This layer is 25 to 30 rows of flat dead cells completely filled with keratin. So this layer just contains keratin, while this stratum lucidium is the layer that is only found in the palms and in the soles of the feet. This is the extra layer that is not found everywhere. So it consists of 5 rows of clear, flat, dead cells that contains droplet of an intermediate substance that is formed from keratolin, which is eventually transformed to keratin. So the next layer we have is the stratum granulosum. This third layer also has the same thing, because it's keratin that they produce also, while the fourth layer is the stratum spinos, the fifth layer is the stratum basal. So the way to explain all these layers is that young cells, they regenerate at the bottom of the epidermis, closer to the dermis. So then they will continue to move up, because the ones at the top, they will die eventually, because of there's no blood supply going to them. So they are going to die, and then the ones under, they will continue, they will come up. And these cells that are in our skins, they are avascular, meaning that the oxygen and nutrients that they need is coming from below, it's coming from the dermis. So when the cells are further up, they are not close to the dermis, the nutrient or oxygen reaching them is very low. So they will not be able to survive for long, and they will eventually die. So and new ones under is going to replace them, and the cycles continue like that. Those new ones too will die. So that is the layers of epidermis. Next thing we are going to go through is this diagram. This, a way to understand it, is the layers: the column, the lucidium, the granulosum, the spinos, and the basal. These are the layers of the epidermis. This is the epidermis, and these are the cells that we can find in the epidermis. So a way to remember these layers is CLGSM. Come, let's get some bond. Don't mind my handwriting, I wrote it. It's not part of the PDF, but COM for conellum, L for lucidium, G for granulosum, S for spinosum, B for basal. So this is a synonym to remember the layers of the epidermis. Come, let's get some bond. So that is all we'll talk about in epidermis. Let's go to the dermis. The dermis is the second part of the skin, and it is composed of 2 layers. So to not get confused, we're talking about the dermis now. It is composed of 2 layers. The first layer is called the papillary region or papillary layer, while the second layer is called the reticular layer. But the thing to take from this is that the dermis contains elastic fibers, and these elastic fibers, they're the ones that enable the skin, gives the skin the ability to stretch or extend. So like now, when someone becomes pregnant, the stomach will extend to accommodate the baby. So the skin is elastic, is stretching. So it's because of these elastic fibers that are in the dermis. And also, when extreme stretching occurs, small tears occurs in the dermis, and those small tears will become visible later on the skin, and that's what they call stretch mark. So that's what we talk about in dermis. But below the dermis, we also have a layer also, which we call the hypodermis, that we talked about in the beginning. The hypodermis is this. It is attached to bones and muscles below the body. So the hypodermis anchors the skin. It anchors the skin to the tissues and bone, or the bones and the muscles in the body. So it's the last layer of the skin. So after the epidermis, we have the dermis and we have the hypodermis. The hypodermis also stores fat, and it's made up of adipose and fatty tissues. So and it also contains nerve ending that's sensitive to cold heat. So that is the integumentary system and studying the skin. So to summarize this lesson, the integumentary system is consists of skin, and what we are studying is the skin has three layers. We have the epidermis, we have the dermis, and we have the hypodermis. The epidermis has 5 layers in the palms and in the fruits, and it has 4 layers every other place, and it also has 4 cells that make up those layers. While the epidermis is divided into the papillary dermis and the reticular dermis, those are the 2 layers of the dermis. While hypodermis is what anchors our skin, so our tissues and our organs. So that is all for the integumentary system. See you next time. Peace.